I'm gonna fuck you up.
Hey guys, we are back with another movie. I know it has been a while, but we are back and ready to roll. Today we're going to take a look at the movie Nobody. Nobody stars Bob Odenkirk, famous for his roles in Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. Bob Odenkirk is like the least likely dude that you'd expect to be an action star, which is why I think he's great for this role. Funnily enough, he's in his 50s now, but he's never really trained for one of these roles before. So he was paired up with actor and stuntman and martial artist Daniel Bernhardt. And basically Bob's thing was like, hey man, I am not an action star and I am not trying to be doing any high kicks. While Nobody and John Wick share a lot of similarities, he's not doing a lot of fancy moves and big throws and drops right there. He's staying on his feet for the most part. So he kept his training regimen to mostly bodyweight exercises and calisthenics. He would ride his bike, he'd go running, he'd do push-ups and pull-ups, and he'd work with his trainer Daniel Bernhardt, who coordinated the stunts on the motions incorporating the hip movement that were going to be so essential for his role. So in a lot of the fight sequences that you'll see in this movie, and particularly in this one, he doesn't throw a lot of high kicks or anything really fancy. It's just basic fighting. Lots of punches, lots of rotation into the punches, lots of big movements, but primarily with striking with the hands. That's enough. Let's dive on into this. Let's roll.
I'm gonna fuck you up.
How can you not love that intro to a fight scene? Like, stuff's about to go down. The thing about this fight scene, I like this fight scene because, as stated in the movie, if you haven't seen it before, spoilers, this whole thing is a spoiler by the way, he states, man, he hasn't fought in years. He really hasn't lived that lifestyle. So you can tell there's a lot of rust involved, and that's how fighting is. It's like riding a bike, but still, it's like riding a rusty bike. So you can see at the very beginning of this fight scene, this first fight he's really been in years, and it's kind of him shaking off a little bit of rust, but he definitely shakes off pretty quick. Right, so in this first part right here, you see Bob's got a good roll that he does underneath that punch. So just like in boxing, he's keeping his chin down, he's keeping his hands up, he's level changing, and he's going underneath to pop out from underneath the elbow of the punch that his opponent threw. So if his opponent threw his left hand, he'd pop out underneath his elbow underneath. If we're sticking in strictly boxing, he'd be able to turn the corner and follow up, right? But in this case, he's using that as a transition period to attack the next person. Here we see off of that roll he just did a second ago, he's got a good basic high cover. You'll see this in a lot of combat sports. You'll see this in Thai boxing and MMA to an extent, where he'll keep his chin down and he'll cover up nice and deep, basically putting his head in a cage. This is actually a great strategy if you don't have a lot of time to learn how to defend against a punch. So just basically put your head in a cage and let your frame absorb a lot of the damage. In this case, he uses that to transition to the inside, and for a takedown or to get into that clinch range, we can control a little bit better. Right, and here we see he's working a couple of kicks. We've got the first kick and the second kick. These are very similar. And notice there's a commonality between these, right? The first commonality is that he raises his knee up, but he doesn't bring his knee past his hip. Anytime you raise your knee and start going over your hip, that's a lot of balance and coordination required. It's a very athletic movement. And like we talked about at the beginning, Bob was like, I want to train for this movie, but I'm not trained to be an action star right off the bat, right? So he wanted to stick things that were a little more naturalistic for him. So he wanted to keep it relatively simple. And in fact, he often uses his environment to hold on and maintain as he's driving that kick in. And this kick is very common in MMA, where you'll see it's called an oblique kick, where you bring your foot up, you drive out with your hip, and you're striking, making contact with your heel on your opponent's target, which is generally going to be the knee. Like, take a look at this 2-on-1 here that Daniel has as he's in this fight scene with Bob, and you can see this is something very similar. We've trained when I was the chief instructor for Fit to Fight. It's a 2-in-1 knife defense where I've got to gain control of the attacking arm. But you know, the thing with this is you've got to be moving from there, whether it's I'm disengaging and running away and I'm transitioning to behind them, or I'm engaging my own weapon. Whatever the case is, I can't stay there, and as you can see, he kind of pays the price for doing so. Also, I'd love to be able to bring you these videos, so if you get a moment, please like, comment, and subscribe, because that helps to continue to drive me in making these videos. Thanks for the support. Peace.